We're ready to go, right? Good.
Hey, can we tweak this stuff down real quick?
Yeah.
After the board appreciation.
That's the plan. Yeah. As opposed to us hiding this one, right? They're loud or I'm loud?
They are loud.
You're loud.
They get to be loud. That's part of the fun, right? I'd like to welcome everybody to,
Cow, look at this room.
we're not hiding back here, our regular meeting for the month of January. We have full board present. We always start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. You didn't tell me who's leading the pledge tonight.
Wasn't notified myself. Tell us.
Oh, who is leading the pledge tonight? There you go.
Hello. Good evening. I'm Larry Klingon. I'm assistant principal at Midway Middle School. It is my pleasure to introduce you some of our Midway Middle School avid students. Although it's customary for admin to introduce the students, they have asked to introduce themselves as part of their public speaking skills. So,
Well done.
Hello, my name is Faisal Tal.
Hello, my name is Alva Tiao.
Hello, my name is Brandy Dixon.
Hello, my name is Robert Hernandez.
Hi, my name is Ariana Perez.
Hey, I'm Makaya Gowan.
Hello, I'm Jayla Sadler.
Hello, I'm Leila Garcia.
And hello, I'm Cameron Tippy.
if everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
After the pledge, we always have recognition. Tonight's no different. Although we're going to reorder the agenda, it says Texas School Board Recognition Month. We're going to move that, and we're going to start first with our congressional medalist, and Board Member Colin Witt is going to assist Superintendent with these recognition items.
All right, thank you, Mr. Russick, members of the board. It's our pleasure to welcome all of you this evening for our student and staff recognitions, always the best part of the meeting. Also want to always announce, though, at the conclusion of the recognitions, you're certainly welcome to stay. As you can see, we have a full agenda of other board meeting items. However, we'll take a short intermission at this time before we begin the regular meeting, and you're free to leave at that time. But we do, as Mr. Russick said, have lots of awards tonight, and we're starting with a congressional medalist, and I'd like to introduce to you tonight Miss Allison Smith, our high school principal, with this award.
Just kidding, Eliana. First, we'd like to recognize congressional medalist Eliana White. So go ahead and come on up. Eliana is receiving one of the highest honors presented to youth by the U.S. Congress, and it was awarded to Midway High School senior Eliana this fall. Eliana spent hundreds of hours volunteering, 1,300 to be exact, to earn the Congressional Award Bronze Medal, which honors students for setting personally challenging goals and meeting the needs of their community. To fulfill the goals she set, Eliana volunteered through several local nonprofits, including the Hewitt Public Library, Mission Waco, and Caritas. She also logged over 650 hours in one-on-one music training and studying music theory, and spent nearly 400 hours weight training, biking, and running to improve her swim times, and she did all of that on top of her regular schoolwork. After graduation, Eliana plans to attend Wheaton College Conservatory of Music in Chicago and hopes to one day become a member of the Navy or Air Force Band. Congratulations on your congressional award, Eliana. The Midway community is incredibly thankful for the example of dedication that you have and for your service.
Good job.
Next, we are honoring state awards tonight, some national qualifiers. And Ms. Smith, you're back up again.
Thank you, Dr. Kazanis. And we'd also like to honor our Midway Theater students who qualified for nationals and medaled at the state level. At the Texas Thespian Festival held in Grapevine last month, 6 Midway High School students qualified for the nationals, and the improv troupe placed among the top 3 teams in the state. Devontae Reyes and Chucky Castillo Jr., along with Zach Williams and Cole Harris, qualified for nationals in duet acting. So I'm gonna have those 4 come up first. So Devontae, you're first, and then Chucky. And then Zach Williams and Cole Harris. I'm sorry, Zach Williams and Cole Harris, if you'll come on up too. And Zach Williams is also a national qualifier in short film alongside Dylan McCann. So Dylan, come on up. And that is in Playworks, and Jackson Pyron in Monologue. So Jackson, come on up. As some of the best in the country, these national qualifiers are invited to showcase their talents and compete at the International Thespian Festival, which will be held in June in Indiana at Indiana University, Bloomington. So congratulations, and we have more to go, so y'all just hold on. So congratulations also to the Midway Improv Troupe. These talented students earned 3rd place at state out of 94 troops competing. Darius Bedford, come on up. And then Chucky Castillo, go ahead and wave. Yes, there's Chucky again. And then we have Leland Childs and Davis Duncan. Let's see, Davis. And Joellen Pittman. And Devontae Reyes was already up here as well, Devontae. And Zach Williams was up here as well. In addition, Kimmy Clendenin is also received the honor of being named Texas Thespian Advocacy Student Ambassador. She was selected from a statewide pool of applicants to empower student voices to advocate and promote theater education in Texas. And of course, none other than all of this would not be possible without their high school theater directors, Jill Wilkinson and David Wellbaum. So if you guys will come up too, y'all gotta come up. Officer, yes. Correct. Come on up. Yes. So. A lot of great honors. Great job. Well done. Awesome. All right, so I'm just going to keep rolling. I get to hog the evening, I guess. So next up will be our All-State Orchestra, and our fine arts is on a roll. So we also have a pair of talented orchestra students who earned high marks this year at the state level. After completing a rigorous audition process, Esther Kim, and Esther, come on up. I saw you. There she is. And Alana Schubert, and I believe Alana, there she is. They have been selected as members of the 2022-2023 Texas Music Educators Association All-State Orchestra. This is the highest honor an orchestra student in Texas can receive, and it's also Alana's 3rd year in a row to earn All-State Orchestra honors, so congratulations. Esther and Alana began the all-state audition process in the fall with over 70,000 high school students from across the state and were ultimately selected to perform alongside the best high school orchestra students in the state at the annual TMEA Clinic and Convention, which will be held next month in San Antonio. And Dr. Benson, stand back up. You were up here in the picture, but this is Dr. Bo Benson, and thank you all for your hard work and work with our students every day. Thanks.
All right. Again, congratulations to all of these students. Very, very proud of you, and to the teachers and staff that are here tonight. Of course, the Fine Arts Department, very proud, and of course, those that led our Pledge of Allegiance, Ms. Tippy and students, y'all did a fantastic job. We're always proud to recognize you here at our school board meetings. But one of my honors is allowed to recognize staff members. And so tonight we have a very special staff member. We're going to celebrate first grade teacher from Hewitt Elementary, Miss Wendy Singletary. Miss Singletary. All right. So let me tell you why we're honoring Miss Singletary. She is officially Midway's 7th National Board Certified Teacher after completing her certification last month. She is now in an elite group across the United States of only 3% of teachers, and actually just 0.33% of teachers here in Texas have the National Board Certification. It's the highest credential available in the teaching profession, and it spans multiple years. Midway is one of the only school districts in Texas that has our own in-house program for training, and Ms. Singletary began the program of earning her early childhood generalist certification in this particular program prior to the pandemic. This is Ms. Singletary's 22nd year in education and her 5th year at Midway, and always puts students first in everything that she does, and a huge asset to Hewitt Elementary, to our students and families, and to Midway ISD. And so again, one more round of applause for Ms. Singletary. And if there are any others, I'd love to see the entire cohort or mentors that are part of the National Board Certification process. If you're here tonight, come forward as well. We have several other National Board Certified teachers here in Midway ISD. So let's take a group photo.
Ms. Singletary, could you tell us that you've accomplished this while raising how many Midway students of your own?
Well, 5 kids and 3 that went through Midway. So.
Yeah.
And she had to raise a job.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Witt. And now we have our final recognition of the evening is January is the statewide Texas School Board Recognition Month. So you're probably wondering all these lovely flowers and gifts that are up here. So this doesn't happen every month, of course, but again, in January in Texas, we recognize and honor our school board members. We honor their service to their local school boards. These 7 members, of course, spend numerous hours on behalf of our students, families, and our community here of Midway ISD. And these are volunteer hours. They're not paid hours, they're volunteer hours to give back to our students and staff in order to have the tools that we all need to be successful. Collectively, these 7 elected members have 64 years of experience and service to the school board, and they have been parents to 27 students or alumni of Midway ISD. So that's bigger than a regular classroom at the elementary level, right? More than 22 to 1 there. So we're grateful for their dedication. So the members I'd like to start with real quickly and introduce those if you don't already know them, but they deserve special recognition one by one. I want to start with Mr. Pete Russick. He's our president. He's in place 1. He's been a board member since 1996, serving as our board president since 2004. And Mr. Russick has 5 Midway graduates. So, Mr. Russick, would you come forward, please? Come on. Next on our list is Miss Susan Vick, our vice president in place 2. She is Midway's first female vice president of the board. She joined the Midway School Board in 2011, and she is the mother of 4 Midway alumni. Ms. Vick, please come forward. Come on. Next, in place 3, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Colin Witt. Mr. Witt joined the board in May of 2021. He has a 2020 graduate of Midway High School and currently has 2 students enrolled one finishing soon this year, right? About to graduate and go off to college. So please join me in thanking Mr. Colin Witt. Next, in place 4 is Mr. Brad Alford. Mr. Alford joined the Midway Board of Trustees as a member in 2018. Mr. Alford has 4 Midway graduates of the system. Brad Alford. As you can tell, it's a theme. You have to have a lot of kids to be on the board, okay? That's just a prereq. Next, in place 5 is our board secretary, Ms. Pam Watts. She joined the board in 2016. She's, as I said, currently our board secretary, and she also has 4 Midway graduates, all of whom attended Midway schools since kindergarten. Please join me in thanking Pam Watts. Next, in place 6 is our newbie, our newest board member, Mr. Jonathan Green. He is an alumni of Midway. He graduated in 2000. He joined the board in 2022. He has 3 children currently attending Midway schools. So, Mr. Jonathan Green. And last but not least, in place 7, Mr. Rick Tullis. Mr. Tullis joined the board in 2013. He has 4 children of his own, 2 Midway alumni that have already graduated, and 2 current students of Midway. So please join me thanking Mr. Rick Tullis. So, just on a quick personal note, being the superintendent, it is my pleasure to work with these fine men and women. They serve tirelessly for our school system. A lot of things that I'm sure students don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis, or our staff, or our community, but they do. They give so much of their own volunteer time and effort because they love Midway, and they love our school system, they love our community, and they want to serve and give back for our students. That's always been the reason why, in visiting with these 7 members, why they ran for school board, is just a desire to serve their community and to give something back to it. And they really have made my job easier as a superintendent. I have worked with most of these, finishing up almost 11 years as superintendent, and it has always been my honor and privilege to work with them. Many of you may know this is my last board meeting. I am retiring after 32 years and 24 as a sup. But I couldn't have been in a better place than Midway ISD to complete my career as a superintendent. So my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to all that they do, and I want to just thank each and every one of you individually. Thank you so much. I appreciate you very much. Well, this concludes our meeting of recognition.
No, it does not.
Oh.
It does not. For those of you that have been paying attention, there was actually a retirement reception on January 2nd for our superintendent, and here, we make these other people come up here and stand in the middle. You can do the same. Yeah. The Fine Arts Department hosted that. They arranged for a couple of students to do original custom artwork. George collects school buses. These were painting the school buses. Incredibly gifted and talented students did those, I was telling you. A choir performance, and they then decorated the Black Box Theater where the reception was held. I am told the athletics department has a presentation to make to you now. Mr. Shelton.
I told Dr. Mazanis I'd try to make this the longest board meeting possible since this is his last one. No, just a couple words. I just want to say on behalf of all the athletes, coaches, entire athletic department, we want to congratulate you on an incredibly accomplished career. Thank you for all your vision, guidance, support over the years. Our students benefit from outstanding facilities, have great venues to show off their talents. Personally, I want to thank you for the investment you made in me, your wisdom, mentorship, your leadership, the scoldings, 1 or 2 that you gave me, probably some semi-warranted, but we appreciate you. We're grateful for your service. Thank you so much. And on behalf of athletics, we want to give you a little token. I checked the gift, you see. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're tired of numbers.
The district has a traditional retirement gift, which is very, very nice. Although it does resemble that paddle I got here with the inside. Yeah, we won't talk about that anymore. Cutting board, but most importantly, not a get out of jail free card for Monopoly, the infamous red card for retirees that gets him into all Midway events, free of charge.
Need that.
Yeah, so he can still keep coming. And then, from the board, we have, come over here, because you're gonna carry a couple of these, right? I'm gonna carry the glasses, I'm gonna let you carry the big one. This is I'll make sure I get the wording right, custom blown glass bowl, just what you think it is. And glasses, done by, do you know who?
I hope Coach Ron Anderson.
Coach Ranierson, tennis coach and art teacher, with much assistance from Pam and Susan with regard to design. And Susan gets particular credit for the, what did you call these? I don't know what that means. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I think they're for water. Yeah. So,
It should be noted that Susan and I personally blew air into that object, so you can forever take away with you a little bit.
and George is right. This is his last official board meeting to attend. One of the things that I think is most important is also to recognize somebody that is at this board meeting that I think this is the second board meeting she's ever attended. The first one when he got hired, and the last one he's retiring, and his wife Kim. And let me just tell you folks what a sacrifice spouses of superintendents make. It's tremendous, and I think we all round of applause for Kim. Now, wait a minute. Well, if you want to sit down, you can. I'm going to make you sit down. I think it's only appropriate that, because I'm only one of 7, and it's always been very important to me on this board that this isn't about me. Every one of these board members spends just as much time and heart and effort and cares just as much the students as I do. I want to give every one of them a chance, if they've got words for George at his last board meeting, opportunity to say them, in no particular order. If somebody's got something on the tip of their tongue and they want to go first.
No, I don't like going first, you go first. You start that in.
Well, we were not informed that we would.
Absolutely, you were not.
But I can say, George, thank you. Thank you for your strong leadership in this district. I mean, we don't realize it because we are all in this district, but it's one of the top 1% districts in all of the state of Texas. I mean, how amazing that you
goes back a few years. As many of you know, my dad was on the board for 19 years, so I have a unique perspective of getting to know Dr. Kazanis. As a Midway graduate, you know that my time at Midway didn't overlap with his, but I'll echo what Rick said. He's been a great leader, and I think the biggest positive testament to Dr. Kazanis' tenure at Midway is that when we were conducting the search for the next superintendent, we had community members come and speak and give their input on what they wanted to see in a new superintendent. And you can sum it up by the overwhelming response was, we want another George Kazanis to be the superintendent, didn't we? And to me, there's no higher honor or no higher testament to what someone has done for a district than to have you retire and then have the entire community say, we want another one. So, I mean, everybody is so thrilled that you've been here with us, and just thank you for all you've done for the district.
My first most memorable experience working with George was not in any capacity as a superintendent, but as fellow choir parents. Both of our kids were singing at the high school, and we rounded up parents to volunteer at the concession stand, which we worked to fundraise for the choir. And he was there till the end of the night, pushing a broom, just, you know, helping out like every other parent. And that captures who this man is. He is the most servant-hearted, humble, and yet wisest, most compassionate people I have ever met. As a writer friend of mine describes, someone with spiritual gravitas. I love you dearly. I'm going to miss you dearly. And it's been the greatest joy. I wouldn't be here serving in this capacity if it were not for my relationship with you. You've been a great leader and a great friend.
A relationship with George kind of goes back a little bit before school board. We spent a lot of weekends going to swim meets and water polo meets, and it's been a really great pleasure just getting to know you and Kim that way, and then getting on the school board and professionally, you know, being acquainted with you and just watching you, the way you manage the district, and I just couldn't be any prouder to be on this board.
So I, like Mr. Green, I haven't been here on the board very long. It's been about a year and a half, but I really enjoy getting to know Dr. K better during that time. And the thing that really has struck me, both from before I was on the board, but my time on the board, is his presence. His presence at, Pam just talked about choir, volunteering at choir events, but even now, seeing him come to events all over the place. And I can remember being at our band competition that I had spent the day volunteering at, whatever, and walking on the concourse, and there's Dr. Kazanis and Allison Smith sitting there waiting to see how band does. And it's that kind of commitment is being visible like that is something that we all see and we all appreciate, and it tells the students that you care, it tells the staff that you care, and we know that you care. So thank you.
I'm probably going to cry because I'm an emotional person. So you're going to cry. I haven't started yet. So I knew George and Kim while they were at China Spring, and then they left for Wichita Falls. And then when we were looking, I just came on the board right before Brad retired or resigned from here, and so I was on that search.
and also being able to work with teachers. And I can't tell you, Kim and I talk about it a lot about you just can't find better people than educators. And being able to have that career, we all have this one life, and to get too much here, but very, very blessed that I was placed in a job and a role in education and then in leadership in order to answer God's calling to do that. And I feel humbled and blessed to be able to do that for 32 years and still have this opportunity to give back in a little bit different way. Hopefully, maybe another 10 or so. But thanks. I always kid Mr. Russick. He called me on April Fool's Day, offered to say they named me this one finalist, and I always thought, please don't be a joke. It was a time, it was like, oh my gosh, that I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be superintendent of Midway. And then to now be, as I said, almost 11 years. Really a dream come true, and just this opportunity to serve alongside such dedicated staff and to be a part of this community that consistently supports public education. Kind of will be my new platform, if you will, about that is we have to continue to support public education for the future of our nation, the future of our democracy. It is critical that we continue to do this experiment that the United States has done so well. So I want to, again, put that out there as where we must always remain united in that front. But finally, to the board, as I said earlier, thank you, way beyond expectations for the kind words. But I hope you all understand, they said very, very nice things about me, which I deeply appreciate. But these men and women care so much. They care about, I'm looking at the kids, students, they care about you. I see it in all kinds of ways, but every decision that they're making is because of you, as students, to make your experience better. We all realize we make mistakes. We all realize we're not perfect. We all realize this is tough, but they're working to make your educational experience alongside us as educators that much better. And they truly have the heart for you. And being able, as I said, to finish my career and to work at this professional and
my friend.
Okay, we ready to go?
What are we doing here?
Come on, let's make it
Yes.
happen.
Thank you, sir, thank you. We have a number of information items, the quarterly investment report, update 120, and then our new MHS courses for 23-24. Does anybody have any questions on any information items?
I do, and normally I would have emailed this and I completely forgot. I've had a couple of parents approach me in about a month or so ago about looking into a potential new course. Where do they start with that? Do they start with the high school? Do they start with?
If it's high school level, yeah. If it's not middle school,
Okay,
but high school.
yeah, it's a high school level.
Ms. Smith, is she?
She's out there taking
Okay, I was going to
pictures,
say,
but-
generally too, a good place to start could be like with their guidance counselor at first.
Okay.
Instead of the maybe, or assistant principal, at least kind of talk about it, but I would just make an appointment. We're always open. We have, as
Sounds
you can
great.
see, approval of a number of innovative courses
Right.
all of the time, so it
Right,
could be
right.
something.
Okay,
I would start there.
thank you.
I was really excited to read about the sports official
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
I was reading that, and my extracurricular mom brain was thinking, we're gonna have a whole generation of kids who understand what sports are like from the official side, which is a different level of perspective, and I have a husband and a longtime Midway friend and Midway dad who worked as sports officials. It's a good gig, so definitely future work opportunity. I was reading all of the TEKS and the things they're gonna come out knowing, and I don't know who initiated that, but I think that's a brilliant notion. We've had lots of great courses come through, but this one caught my eye because we've lived it, and so I just want to mention, great idea, applause, well done.
Yeah. That was Brad, as far as I know. Brad Shelton
Brad?
made that
I
happen.
guess it would be Brad.
Yeah.
Allison.
Well,
They're both not in here, so. I'll take the credit because they're not in here, so. you
Yeah,
know, it's my
good job,
idea.
good
Thank you very
job,
much.
Susan.
we know where to find them.
That's
But
awesome.
I'm real excited
That was
about
cool.
that.
I
That's well
thought so.
done.
I was like, whoa, this is cool when I saw that, so.
You can make good money as a referee, especially depending on the level.
Exactly.
All right, presentation discussion items. First one of which is our fall of 2022 demographic study. Hudson Huff, I understand. Mr. Huff, welcome. Appreciate you being here to visit with us this evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for your patience.
Yes.
No, it's an odd, sometimes you get a chance to sit in on several board meetings, and this is definitely a special one. So, yeah, great to be here with you this evening. So with that said, I'll kind of get things cranked up. I am with Zonda and Zonda Education specifically. I know Mr. Bob Templeton has met with you on several occasions over the years, and so I am happy to be here in his stead. But I can promise you, he would love to have been here as a part of this tonight. So.
And he only lives a few miles from us.
I can assure you, that's why I say he is unfortunately, he is out of state. He would have, trust me, he would have loved to have been here with you and also been able to get home in a relatively short period of time. So with that said, I'll try to get things rolling. Make sure that I get that right. Oh, here we go. Sorry. There we go. Here we go. I'll get going on this specific to our economic conditions as to how it relates to the housing market. And so regionally, we can see that we've had a relatively low unemployment rate, which is great when considering the health of the housing market. And so you can see that McLennan County specifically has dropped down to a low of 3.4%, and that's actually down from what it was even the previous year in October of 2021, where it was at 4.1%. At the same time of having extremely low unemployment rates, we've seen inflation, and the Federal Reserve went through a series of increases to the federal funds rate since March of last year into this fall. And so that took a monthly house payment that would have been just below that $2,000 amount per month. And the increase in appraisals on those same type of home, on a $343,000 house, increased about 8% in that same time frame, as well as having those mortgage rates increase to close to 7%. And so that raised it to over a 45% increase to about $2,700 or $860 per month difference. And that is causing a slowdown in the overall market right now, which is part of what we'll talk about. You can see year over year, specific to the January through October is the snapshot that we currently have right now, where you can see that our home sales are down a little from where they were in the previous year. But you can see that the average home price, as well as the median, and those numbers are up, and we'll get into more detail in the next slide. And then you can also see the overall total listings, as well as some of the inventory is up as well, and that's partly tied to just things slowing a little bit in the market as we see it right now.
Hey, real quick, the data here, it says Waco monthly home sales.
Yes.
Is it Midway ISD specific, or is this just Waco?
This is in the greater
City
Waco
of
region.
Greater Waco, so it includes Woodway and Hewitt as well.
Correct.
Okay.
So we'll get into a little bit more detailed information in a couple of slides from here specific to Midway, but this is specific to the Waco region.
Okay.
Specific to Midway ISD, you can see that this is the total home sales, and we had a peak, you can see with 1,518 total home sales in that 2020 year. And you can see that that has dropped a little bit in 2021, and then we anticipate that this is as of October, so it's not a full comparison from what our current year is to what it was the last several years, but we do think that it will be down a little bit from where it has been. So anticipating somewhere in that 1,200 range, most likely when the year is out. When you look at the Midway ISD home values, when you evaluating new home sales, that price has gone up almost 100,000 from that 2015 to 2022 year. In that same time frame, related to the average existing home, that is up over that 7-year time frame about $147,170 in comparison to that. So a fairly significant increase in that same time frame with home prices. Related to multifamily, we reference regional information. So just in this specific slide, I would point to the fact that we show about a 93.1% occupancy with the rent rates being around $1,115. When we get into a little bit more deep dive into the McLennan County area, you can see that we evaluated that information statistically, and it's very much in line with that 93.5% occupancy rate and a average market rent rate of $1,279.
I have a question on that. So
Yes.
can you explain what that really means? So we have fewer people occupying multifamily home units. So did they go buy a home? Do you know what happened to them? Did they go buy a home? Did they leave our market altogether because it was too expensive? What does it actually mean that it went down 3.5%?
I would anticipate in that time frame that it had to do with the housing market and the fact in that time frame that they were potentially renting temporarily until their homes are ready and moved into new homes. That would be our expectation.
Okay.
Getting into the single-family developments, you can see that there are 22 active building subdivisions, and we anticipate there are 6 future subdivisions. And of those actives, we have 740 lots within 8 of those subdivisions across the district that have current some degree of construction and utility work taking place in them right now. So we'll get into a little bit more specifics related to the individual developments. This is Park Meadows. Ultimately has a little over 1,200 total lots with 65 homes that are currently under construction. Has 107 vacant developed lots that are ready to be built on, with 141 future lots. So this is a fairly established development that already has 911 homes that are already currently occupied in that area, with a price point of about $247,000 as a starting point, and we show that our student yield in that development is 0.639.
Wow, it's really high.
Just to that south, Park Meadows South, is a development that has 809 total lots. You can see that there are 76 homes currently under construction in that development. It has 193 vacant developed lots with 439 futures that are planned in that development. They had a final plat in phase 3 that was approved in August of this past year. And you can see the price point on that is $250,000 and has a yield of 0.218, lower than what we have just to the north.
Do we know why that's that much lower? I mean, the price is pretty close.
I don't know that I could tell you specifically why that is. I mean, that
I mean,
is...
0.639 is pretty high.
It is.
0.21 is pretty low, though. So.
And sometimes we have one community from another. It may fall that way. I would ultimately share that it would ultimately average out somewhere in between, ultimately, as time develops. Specific to within that same Park Hill attendance zone is Creekside Addition. It has 750 total lots, 490 futures, and it does have currently 25 homes that are under construction. And again, I keep going back to the future lots. I'll just reference that because ultimately when I get through it all, I'll share the overall numbers of how many futures we have that we're reporting on today. Price points are in that $200,000 to $400,000 range, and then you can see the yield is that 0.376. Just to the north, in the Hewitt Elementary Zone, you can see that there is the Renaissance Phase 6 that has 58 total lots, of which there are 11 homes that are currently under construction and 47 vacant developed lots. Anticipating the first residents being there in the next several months. We also have Chapel Park, and so this has 331 total lots, 159 futures in that. Currently only have one home that's under construction in that development currently right now. They do have 156 homes that are occupied. Groundwork is underway related to the Phase 9 within the overall development, and the builder anticipates building about 20 to 40 of those homes per year. At the rate they're going right now, ranges that 250 all the way up to 550,000, and it has a student yield in this development of 0.365. You can also see Tanglewood Estates has a total of 450 total lots. Large percentage of that is futures, 320 future lots. They do have 91 vacant developed lots ready to be built on, and they are currently building 27 homes that are being built right now, and they have about 12 homes that have been built and are currently occupied. We have 2 students in that area right now, as well as just to the south, just to the side of Chapel Park Elementary is Garden Meadows. And you can see that is 300 total lots, 270 futures, of which there are 25 vacant developed lots. They do have 3 homes that are currently under construction. You can see that Phase 5 was approved in July of 2021 with an anticipation of home building early in 2023, so within the next several months. And they're saying right now to us that we anticipate that they'll build about 15 homes per year at the current rate they're going right now. Still in the Chapel Park region is Sunwest Village with 643 total lots, 315 future lots in that development, 36 vacant developed lots, 20 homes that are currently under construction. They do have 272 homes that are already occupied in that area. and analyzing that, of the homes that are currently occupied right now, we have a yield of 0.596, and that price point is $200,000 to the high $300,000 range. And then just to the north of that is the Buckingham Estates with 163 total lots. You can see that 74 of those lots are currently built out and occupied, with 88 futures and 1 vacant developed lot that has not been built on yet. Current yield in that area is 0.405. West End at Valverde has 600 total lots, of which 548 of those are futures. And you can see that 43 of those lots have been developed and are ready to be built on, and 9 homes are currently under construction. They reference the fact that they anticipate a pace of about 25 homes per year, with building out the master plan that could be 15 to 20 years from now. As well as in Woodway's area, Woodway's zone is the Westlake Estates, and it has 42 future lots. That was final platted in October of 2021, and they are anticipating construction starting in that development through as far as lots go in 2023, with lot prices starting at $250,000 a lot. In addition to that, you can also see splitting between South Bosque and Woodway is the Starlight Estates development. There are 66 future lots in that, and it spans a little over 100 acres. There are some challenges with this development that I believe the city is currently working through with the developer related to the topography of the development. So the overall timing of that development is still to be determined. And I promise we're getting to the end. Down to Deer Valley Estates has 90 total future lots with groundwork underway, and homes anticipated to start in the spring of 23. And the lot price on those developments, on those homes, will start out at $190,000 to $350,000. All right, so then we get to getting back into multifamily and looking at the yield that we have. We get in and we geocode all of the student data that we have, and so we see out of the 2,466 units of multifamily that you have in the district that you have 562 students, so that provides a yield of 0.228. And you can see the various different pockets within the district that shows the yield in specific regions, but most of that is below the 0.25 range. Getting into a little bit more detail associated with the student data, you can see Midway currently has 320 students that are outside of the district, and several of these are, of course, going to be teacher students that come with them whenever they come to work every day. And so that's part of that. You can also see that 3.7 of the total students reside, let me see, this prison, reside I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly. I've got to remember that one. There are roughly that live within the, this represents total MISD. I'm sorry, I misread that, so I apologize for that. That 320 students that come out from outside of the district represent 3.7% of the overall enrollment. I apologize. I do not know why that stuck me. You can see that you have 2,463 students, and that's roughly 28.2% of the district's population that reside within Hewitt city limits. You have 36.1% of your district that reside within Waco, and 15.6 of your student population reside within Woodway city limits. Another graphic that we have specifically points to what we reference as newcomers and leavers. And so we take that information related to first graders as well as your incoming seniors. So we don't take into consideration your graduates or your pre-kindergarten or your kindergarten members, evaluating mobility that takes place. And so you can see in the 2020 year, you can see that you had 791 newcomers to the district, and you actually had 891 leavers. That is not unique, given to the fact that that 2020 year was the COVID year, and many districts had more leavers than newcomers. But you can see in the 2021-22 year that changed, and your trend went back up to having more newcomers than you had leavers, as well as this current year. Running that same report, you can see that your numbers are up a little over 200 students of newcomers versus leavers.
And when you say leavers, we're tracking those as going to other districts or private school or homeschool?
That is correct.
Or graduates.
No,
This would not include
Not graduates, you said. Oh, okay, wow.
That is correct.
It's a bigger number than I thought.
I have a question backing up to student density. I'm only getting about 84% if you count outside the district, Hewitt, Waco, Woodway. What am I missing? We seem like
ETJ?
Robinson.
County.
It would have been, they would be in the county.
Just county, okay.
Yes.
Well, Robinson,
Yeah.
Spiegel.
I figured they were somewhere, but I just
Yes.
wondered what the number was.
McGregor.
Thank you.
It's not in the city, okay.
Within the city limit of those 3 cities.
Gotcha.
I'll get into a little bit of the previous several years related to the cohort growth, and you can see the numbers in relation to growth in the individual grade levels. And so we would highlight the fact that you can see growth in your pre-K numbers, and I know the district did open up additional pre-K programs this year, but you can also see growth in that first and sixth grade levels as well. So that you can see that that bodes well for future years of growth, knowing that you have in those early years higher growth cohorts growing into those secondary levels.
Yeah, and so do you, because I know some of our private schools locally only go through the 5th grade, so do we have data on how many of those, come back into the district at that point? Is that what that's showing us right there?
It speaks to the fact that happened this specific year. If you look in the past several years, you could see that there was growth in that 5th to 6th grade year over year, from 19 to 20 to 20 to 21. You can see that there is a little bit of a pattern, but I would share that it increased higher this current year than it had the past 3 years.
It looks like that's true in 9th grade as well for this year compared to the others. And that,
Yeah,
and a lot
'cause
of
some of them
those,
go through the 8th
a lot of
grade.
those private schools go through 8. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a good,
In specific, looking at a couple of things related to this table, you'll see that yellow is the highest grade level out of all of the grade levels, and then green is your second largest class. And so you can see that you've got 2 fairly large classes that are going through over the last several years. I would also point to the fact, when you look in the far right side, you can see that you did grow that close to 300 students this year. We are being a little bit more conservative in what we're anticipating happening next year with what's happening with interest rates, and also seeing some of those home sale prices come down a little bit. So we do see that number coming through. You'll also see a little bit of a drop in the numbers in that 24-25, as well as that 26-27 year, because of those large grade classes coming through and graduating out. So even with anticipated growth and a level of growth consistently in those lower levels, when you have those higher grade classes go out, you'll have a small drop in your overall enrollment. in getting into evaluating current numbers as well as capacities of the buildings, and then anticipating forecasts for enrollment for the next several years. You can see that your elementary grades, you can see the challenges that still exist, I think, in the South Bosque Elementary School zone, as well as Park Hill. But you do have capacity in several of those adjacent campuses. But you can see that starting in that 25, 26, and into that 26, 27 year, there'll be some challenges with enrollment in those elementary levels. Still have strong capacity in the middle school levels, and then evaluating where you'll be related to your overall Midway High School numbers. You've got strong capacity for several years to come. And the only thing that we're highlighting there in that, starting in that 2030 to 31 timeframe, is that we know that you're going to be moving into that stage of things when you'll have to start evaluating what decisions the district would make, but that's several years from now. So with that all said, you can see that you grew about 300 students with strong cohort growth in that pre-K, first and sixth grade levels. You can also see that single family is a driver related to the growth that you have. We are anticipating that the interest rate hikes will be challenging in the next year or two, but we still anticipate significant growth for the district moving forward. South Bosque as well as Park Hill Elementary Schools are approaching capacity in the next 2 to 4 years, as well as Midway High. As you look out into the extended view, will need to be looked at as you get closer to the 2030 year. Ultimately, with an anticipation within the next 5 years of having a little over 9,300 students in the district, and 10 years out, forever from now, a little over 10,100 students anticipated. With that said, I'll be happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
So I have a couple of questions on the campus level, if you want to go back one screen. So I looked at these numbers and was pretty alarmed at especially the fact that South Bosque already is still having numbers issues. And so I actually went back to previous projections we'd worked with you guys on a year ago, but also when we did our rezoning. And it seems like there's several areas where we're 20% up or 20% down from what those expectations were. I don't have to go through line by line, but do you know why? Is it really because of home building and just where people are moving, or are there other factors that are affecting that?
It is a factor of the amount of home building that's taking place in those areas. It's also, there is going to be a certain amount of growth that happens, and it can increase at a fairly fast pace. If you have an area where you have young families moving into an area, you just don't know exactly how many young students are going to be coming into that, and we may have had that happen in this specific situation.
Yeah, I mean, the one that really struck me was actually Spring Valley and Hewitt being significantly lower than what we had thought we would be looking at 18 months ago with the numbers, because there were some specific changes we made on the Hewitt side in terms of balance that it looks like we maybe didn't need to make. And I hate that. I hate that we did that, and if we didn't have to, but numbers coming in a lot lower concerns me at some of those schools too. So I guess one of my questions is, I'm wondering if part of this is limited, demographers can only do so much with growth and building what's going to happen, and Dr. K, maybe this is a question for you. To what extent do we think that transfers are affecting this, whether it's within the district or?
Very little. I think the key part that I take away is, what Hudson was talking about, is that interest rate being 7%. And the change of the students that may come to the district. And when you're fighting inflation and everything like that, and coming out of the pandemic, when this was conducted before the pandemic, it was pretty more, I hate to say clear cut, but it was. And then so much changed in our society and world after the pandemic, and even thoughts and ideas of schooling, period, and people's choices and things like that too. So it's been very difficult to predict. My takeaway, though, yes, you're right about some of the balancing. I think two factors, though, are in regard to South Bosque is in that part of the zone, and it's not a criticism, it's just the fact that Spiegelville Elementary does not have the capacity to help balance. And if you had a large, full-size 600-student elementary in that zone, you wouldn't see that at South Bosque. I don't think it's anything particularly about the area over here. It is growing. It is 84 corridor. There, you mentioned Sun West and some of the other ones that are going out there, but that is, there's not a way to relieve it. And we cut it and sliced it so much. Looking at Woodways would be great. We might have to look at a little bit at Woodway, maybe of overflow from South Bosque and then even Spiegel, but it's tough. Now on the Hewitt side, yes, you're right about, we thought we balanced, but let's look at it, I'll look at it at least on the bright side about Park Hill. There will be an opportunity to help with that overflow to Hewitt and Spring Valley.
Sure,
We have
yeah.
capacity.
Right.
And a wise person told me a long time ago about demographics. I like to look at least, really no more than 5 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. Crystal ball gets cloudy, right?
It gets very cloudy after 5, I mean, even 5 isn't perfect.
Yeah.
But 5 is
Yeah.
really, if you look at, looking at current 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so looking at 26, 27, Park Hill, yeah, then we're already looking at that. But it's new and new growth, as you mentioned, many of those subdivisions of Park Meadows and things like that. Could have to move 1 or 2 back to Hewitt or Castleman at least leveled off pretty well, which is good. I mean, it's at capacity, but it wouldn't be as much of a issue necessarily with Castleman. So that and seeing I'll just give my takeaways again. I'm leaving, of course, but glad to see the middle school and River Valley both balancing. That was at one point, one was a little higher, the middle school was, but that inched closer to be 2
Yeah,
schools.
I was actually going to
close.
ask about that one too, because it's.
Very, very happy
they're
about
kind of
that.
flipped from what we thought.
In projections, I'm saying, these are projections, and at the high school in 10 years, it's still 3,000 less. Come on, and it's just a huge undertaking for a community to look at 2 high schools, and you're looking at it with it.
And that's what concerns me, because I mean, 3.5% this year, I mean, that's really strong growth.
Strong this year.
And I have a hard time believing it's gonna drop below 2% in the next couple of years. Honestly, because knowing what I know what's going on with economic development within our district, in the past several years, we've measured economic development in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's good, though.
We've got billion-dollar projects that are gonna hit in our district in the next year or 2. So I'm afraid these numbers are way too conservative, to be honest with you. And we're gonna find ourselves in a much shorter time frame, looking at having to make some facility decisions, so.
Again, you're right, and I was mentioning the interest rates. I don't know enough. Brad, you know more than I do. And I think what Mr. Tullis is saying is exactly right. I think we could grow quicker. But can they build more homes? I think that's another, you're asking Colin's question too, with, the numbers off. I think all of that home building supply.
Yeah.
I said interest rates, but supply of building materials hit hard, just nationwide. But I don't, y'all gonna bounce back.
And if you look at the banks, it's an interesting fact. If you look at what they're offering on CDs, the 1 and 2 year CDs are really high. You go beyond that and they drop like a rock because the bankers think it's gonna be a bubble and it's gonna come back down. So
I'm just saying, Brad, you seen that in the housing market?
Yeah,
They're gonna
but-
bubble back down?
Yeah, but to
Or
me,
have
wouldn't
supply.
you, since you were attracting more people to this area, the interest rates, to me, are they as much of a factor because you're still bringing people in and it's not transferring people from buying homes to a multifamily because they can't afford the interest rates, but to me, you're still bringing the people in, so it's still going to increase and not. Yeah.
And we would anticipate growth. We're definitely not saying that isn't happening. If we would have had this conversation last spring, we would have anticipated probably a little higher percentage. We are being more conservative at this point in time, knowing what the pace of interest rate increases have been, and now we're in that evaluation, seeing it settle out, and then moving forward with evaluating growth. But we do anticipate that there would be a pause before we anticipate things coming back.
Well, if you take these numbers and you move them to 2.5% and compound that over time, I mean, we're talking about in 5 years being at 10,000 students, not 10 years. And that's a totally different scenario for this board. and figuring out what we're gonna do for the district. So, I mean, there's nothing to do but wait and see what happens, but I think we have to stay, we've gotta stay focused in on what's going on, because it could sneak up on us pretty quick if we don't, so.
Well, and I agree with everything you said locally, but then sometimes if you broaden that out to how much it affects our market, I don't know, but when you look to the national and the global, some of these big corporations are letting people off. I mean, things are not going as swimmingly around the world as they are here. How does that trickle down to Waco? Is it a delayed effect that it gets to Waco?
It sends more people to Waco.
I know, so how does that work? I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
how does that all work? Because you see what's coming in, but then I see Amazon is closing, warehouses, 3, 4, 5 warehouses, people are letting people go. We don't have those necessarily here, but does that bring more people here, or does it somehow trickle and everybody gets,
Texas is the
Weird.
place to be right now
So-
for jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
in our local economy, we still have more jobs than we have people. We've got a deficit. We've got to figure out how to get more people here to fill the jobs we have. We've flipped the switch from finding employers to bring jobs to finding people to fulfill the jobs. So how that plays out over the next 10 years, and for our district, which is the highest performing district in the area,
do you think people will still keep bringing their companies here if the workers aren't here? Or they see the fact that they bring their companies here and they don't have
yes,
workers?
because
Will they go somewhere else?
because
there's no
because the
workers?
business climate in Texas is really good, right?
Yeah, I'm just asking you, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
what
a
your
it's a very
thoughts are on
positive
that.
environment.
Right.
And, we do, we're growing. Texas is growing at one of the fastest rates in the nation, over, I think, 2% a year.
But will companies go somewhere where there's a bigger pool of labor?
And the land is cheaper. And the other thing, in the triangle, if you look in the triangle, I mean, Waco is one of the hottest spots because we've still got land that's very affordable, that you can build a big plant.
If there's nobody to work it, what are they gonna do? That's what I'm just asking. I mean,
They're building a $100 billion
build it,
plant in Taylor, Texas to build chips. How many people live in Taylor, Texas
I
to
know,
work
that
at
just doesn't make
that?
sense, yeah.
There's,
They got really good barbecue.
yes.
Rick, do you
There's some
remember-
crazy
You just wonder when
dynamics
that
going
might
on right
turn,
now.
yeah, when the
so.
mindset.
Do you remember
Anyway.
that state demographer meeting you and I went to several years ago? It was pre the 2019 bond. And we were told that the entire population of Texas would be doubled by 2050.
Right, and we hit 30 million this year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I graduated in high school in 1987, and it's doubled since I graduated high school.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Colin, do you have other questions?
This is good conversation.
Oh, it is,
We
but I
should
want to make
be-
sure you
Well-
guys ask your
We're
questions.
second now after.
No, I have a question, but I want to think about it and send an email. I'll email you a question related to transfers. It's totally not related to this discussion, so I don't want to get by off the ball here.
Anyway,
I'll email you.
Sure. Transfers too, just one of the strategies used in Dr. Ojima's office is, just remember, is we look at how many leave or transferring out of Midway though, for whatever reason, like their parents may be teachers or somewhere else, and or they're just going to another district.
Sure.
And so we're always still taking in less than transfer out.
Right.
Of the district. So that, just a reminder, has been the basic philosophy of how we manage. We look at this report that Hudson specifically showing in even more detail. We even see where districts are going, where they're headed to as well. Locally, we know which districts. And everyone has gotten in the area to accepting transfers.
Yeah.
If it's helpful, we have about 329 now.
That transfer out?
in.
Oh, in.
And how many, do you know how many out?
It's a TA report, but we can.
We supply a report to districts, and I think we get it in third or fourth week of April.
But as you said, but it's not on this report, but the bulk of that's staff kids, right?
We have about 150 paying and the rest are staff.
Yeah.
Yep. It's generally about 180, you might hit your quote 330 then, yeah. About 180 are staffers and 150 are outside of the district. But that's why I highly recommend maintaining a demographer for the Midway for years to come, at least annually report. So again, it's good information to have and to really track some of these subdivisions.
Yeah, I mean, we know there's some other subdivisions that aren't showing up on this report either that we're all familiar with, so, yeah.
So Hudson, what was the effective date of this report? What date did y'all run the numbers through?
We pulled numbers specific to the home sales, and the data, many of the slides that I presented tonight are as of the end of October. So
Okay,
there's
that's
still
what I
November,
thought.
there's still, that's, and that is why I hesitate to reference that the overall home sales would be too far down from where they have in previous years,
Right.
because we still have 2 months of data that would be incorporated into that.
And not to put you on the spot, Wesley, what's it cost us to get this kind of report once a year? Yeah, I mean, you know, or maybe Hudson knows.
Hudson
What's-
knows.
What are you charging?
I don't know that I can call them.
George, I'm gonna call on you.
Public service.
What do you charge us?
It's north of 20,000.
Okay. But I'm with Rick. I think that this is information that the board's got to have annually and be paying attention to, because otherwise, you know, it makes a real big difference if that percentage number is 3.5% versus 2%.
Sure. Yeah.
And what the projections are. I'm not talking about the cloudy end of the crystal ball. I'm talking about the end that's got clarity, that's only 2 or 3 years out.
Yeah.
And timing and what that means for what the board's got to be and the administration's got to be talking to the community about in terms of next steps.
And you're exactly right. Again, I'll probably speak more than I normally do at board meetings since it's the last one. But as a parting word is, to Colin's point, I also want to, again, it's not an easy subject, but Midway had been blessed with rezoning about every 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, with this type of growth, the board, you're going to have to look at it more often. And there's
Yeah,
going to have to
that's-
be more often reviews of that and adjustments made is my, recommendation about some, as you could see, not necessarily the middle schools, and of course, but the elementaries,
Right.
you just have to look at that and make some adjustments possibly.
Yeah,
from,
that's kind of the direction I was looking looking at our
Yes.
district-wide capacity for elementary seats. We're still pretty far under that 5 or 6 years out in any of these. It's just a matter of where they are.
Right.
And so I don't know if the answer is build and do, or if the answer is bite the bullet again and see where we draw some lines. Because everybody loves that.
But you made that point when we had to walk through the rezoning fire, the
Yeah.
day where you started in elementary and kinder and finished in fifth in the same campus are gone when you're a fast growth district.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Katy, but it's also growing. So
Yeah.
we're not going to have to do this every year, but I think 5 or 6 years is probably about as far as we can go.
Exactly.
Okay.
But as we're about to see, we have 8 phenomenal elementary schools.
That's
So,
right.
They're all
We
great.
do.
So,
With lots of seats.
Lots of great seats.
Other questions for Hudson, folks?
Nope.
Are you going back tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I will.
Oh, drive safe.
Thank you very much.
Be careful.
Thanks again for being able to be a part of this and allowing us to work with the district related to
Appreciate
this.
Tell Bob we missed him.
I will definitely pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Monthly finance report, Wesley.
Right. Dr. Kazanis, members of the board, look at our December financial report. As you get that pulled up, we'll flip down to page 10 of the report, our monthly property tax report here. In December, we collected $32.1 million in taxes, which was higher. On this report, it goes back to 2019. There was January of 2019. There was more, but other than that, this was the highest month of tax collections we've ever had. So appreciate y'all for paying your taxes in December early.
Cash the checks quickly.
But our
You're preaching to the
percentage
choir here. Yeah.
of collections of our adjusted levy is at 46.7%, and of the budget is 47.5%. So off to a good start there. I do want to bring your attention to the bottom there, the levy information. You can see it shows the last 5 years of our tax levy. The original levy is when we get our certified values from the appraisal district, and those adjustments. That second line is just because, as you know, our values they're constantly moving. There's they change all throughout the year due to protest or adjustments, and so that adjustment line just shows currently to date how that levy has moved. And in December, we had an upward adjustment of 1.5 million, which is pretty rare this time of year. We may, the first month of the year, we may have kind of a big adjustment, maybe a couple $100,000. After that, it's usually 10,000 either direction. So I did some research, and there was a property that was not included when we got our certified values at the end of July. It's at the Amazon warehouse. Of course, it's kind of hard to miss there, but there was some miscommunication on a specialized property like that. They usually get a consultant to value it, and so there was kind of miscommunication on it coming under the rolls. So that was added during December, and we got, and their levy for the year is 1.5 million. And so it's a little interesting because usually, so the comptroller's values, as you know, the higher the comptroller values, the less our state aid. And so the comptroller values don't have Amazon on their roll. So we won't get docked our state aid for that amount. Now, it does mean we probably won't go back and audit this year, because usually we'll go back and audit a year if the values decrease from the certified to the end of the tax year. And so the next page shows you our top 10 taxpayer report.
So Wesley, do I hear you saying that's about another $1.5 million revenue that we're not going to have to give any of to the state?
That's right, yeah, 1.5 more, and that's INS and M&O together.
Oh, combined,
so,
okay, good.
Right.
Way to go bake sale.
That's right. And so the top 10, you can see there, I just updated that since we do see Amazon come on there. They're our third highest taxpayer. Now we have Refresco, which is the Coca-Cola bottling plant, Allergan, and Amazon, valued at $143 million.
What's Vision Pharmaceuticals?
Vision Pharmaceuticals.
Is that part of Allergan?
It could be part of Allergan. I'm not certain.
Maybe a division or something. That's.
Yes, I believe so.
So for this year's budget, we will see increased taxes because of Amazon. That's just one piece of the puzzle. We monitor our tax collections throughout the year. But assuming everything else looks good, we should see higher tax revenue this year than what we budgeted. And it's just kind of a bonus for this year, whereas, we may not get additional state aid in future years for this year. But that's just kind of how that played out. Any questions on the taxes?
Do you know, there's several other projects under some, phase of construction right now in Vasas, Ooze and Oots. There was, some fairly large projects. Do you know if those hit the tax rolls this year?
I'm not aware.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know unless it was a big one like that hit during the year.
I don't think Ooze is operational yet, so they may not be.
Well, okay, great, thanks.
Then if you'll skip down to page 13, your report, since we do have our audit that was presented last month, we're taking a look at our fund balance amounts. Our general fund total fund balance at the end of fiscal year 22 was $24.1 million. Our unassigned fund balance, if you back out those commitments that we make at the end of the year, comes out to $23.3 million. And that is 29% of the fiscal year 2023 adopted budget. We do have a policy of maintaining unassigned fund balance of 25%, so we're above that, about 4% above that, and in dollars it's about $3.4 million above the established floor. If you do recall, we adopted a $3.9 million deficit this year, so if we did lose $3.9 million, that put us below that 25% floor. Next month, I'll start looking at projections for the general fund to see where we're going to finish the year. Of course, our ADA is higher than we budgeted, and this tax revenue will help as well. I do know on the expense side, our utilities are going to come in higher than we budgeted, but hopefully we'll be able to come in better than that 3.9 deficit. And then the next slide shows our child nutrition fund balance. Really had a drastic change from 2021 to 2022.
Yeah.
Wow. It dropped to $539,000 in 2021, went to $1.8 million in 2022. We were able to serve free meals all year last year, and there was a higher reimbursement rate. So we really added a lot to the fund balance. Our recommended fund balance is 2 months of operating expenses, which is $673,000, and the max is a little over $1 million. So we're well above the max, so we're going to have to come up with a plan to reduce that fund balance. Unfortunately, we are in the middle of ordering furniture for the middle school. They're renovating, and a lot of that $700,000 is for cafeteria furniture. So we can use, kind of take that out of the bond budget and use our excess food service fund balance to pay for that cafeteria furniture. It kind of works out nicely. Finally, on the last page of the financial report is our legislative update. Several bulleted items there. Just so you're aware, they did begin the session Tuesday, January 10th. Really unprecedented amount of revenue they have to work with for this biennium. Their revenue estimate for this next biennium is $188 billion, 26% increase from last year's biennium. Part of that is a surplus from the previous biennium of $32 million. And part of that surplus is due to higher property taxes, more recapture. So came back to the state there. They didn't have to pay state money because the taxes covered more than they anticipated. Also, inflation, of course, is going to be a big talking point. It's grown 14.5% in the last since the last biennium, and that Comptroller estimates will grow another 5% in fiscal year 23. The rainy day fund is projected to hit its established cap, projected to reach $27 billion by 2025 at the end of the next biennium. So the legislators will have to come up with ways to spend that down. And like I said, these numbers are kind of once in a lifetime to have this much excess revenue for the state to work with in establishing their budget for the next 2 years. I do know that the property tax reduction will be a major priority, whether they look at increasing the homestead exemption or compressing school district tax rates like they've done in the past. Also, I do anticipate with a lot of talking on the inflation, probably increasing the basic allotment to some degree, which benefits every district regardless of geographic location or demographic, and it does reduce recapture as well. So just a matter of how they want to kind of divvy that up and use those funds. But we'll keep you posted as bills get moved through the process.
Hey, on the federal level, there was an issue with the was it the permanent school fund and how it was evaluated by the IRS, and is it related to bondability, bond funds?
Right. Yeah. They don't have their capacity to guarantee new bond issues.
And we're like at 90-something%
right.
of what
and
that
so
capacity is.
Right, and they're not going to, unless they increase that cap.
Right.
They're not going to be able to guarantee every new bond.
Yeah, I know some congressmen have put forth bills, Arrington out of Lubbock, and Sessions has signed on to that bill. But anyway, I think that's something from a federal perspective, considering what we just talked about, in future needs of the district, keeping an eye on that.
Right, that helps our borrowing costs, interest rates, and
yes, very, very important. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Unrelated directly, but in the vein, Wesley, on our demographic update, if the percentages drop as they project them, any idea what that will do on fast growth allotment? I mean, like, he's saying 1.9% for next, but does that knock us out of any fast growth money?
Around the edge.
It kind of depends. It's relative to other districts in the state.
You gotta know what everybody else is doing.
So, I don't anticipate us falling out. I mean, we could get more or less.
So a couple years ago, we were the
last one.
We were the last one. We were tail.
But now there's like a
sliding scale now, right?
An increase over a certain number of students, you'll get something. So we'll probably always get something. It used to be kind of an all or nothing, and that's why that was kind of interesting. But there was a talking point on the legislative slide there of because they had capped the fast growth allotment, like just a certain appropriation, and it can't go over that. But they're talking about lifting that, so that could possibly help the faster growing districts.
Okay. Anybody else on the finance report?
No, I just say, Rick, you're spending your retirement time really well. National
Thanks, Jay. I got nothing else to do except
Thank
work
you,
on this
everybody. I
beard
appreciate
and watch
that, yeah.
what's going on.
C-SPAN, are you watching C-SPAN?
Yeah,
So thank
whatever
you.
it takes.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, our next agenda item is the district technology plan, but we have an individual that signed up to speak to this item. We're going to let them speak first, okay?
Okay.
Nikki Price, Ms. Price? I'm going to ask Ms. Watts to keep time. Under our board policy, Ms. Price, you have 3 minutes, right? You with me?
There's an iPad right there that has the 3 minutes on it.
Okay.
Oh, you started.
You're right.
I'm
You're
ready
right.
when you are.
And Dr. Ojima has it.
Oh, you got it.
That's right.
Oh, we got it.
That's actually a better method, because.
We're fancy now, look at that.
Thank you.
Oh, my.
High tech.
We're fancy.
You're the first to get this.
Okay.
No, we had it the
Oh,
last
last month I
month.
wasn't here.
You
Okay,
work on
sorry.
it? Are we ready?
So whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, I'm here to talk about the use of iPads at the Midway School District and how they present multiple issues for our students. As the parent of 2 middle school boys, I'm seeing continued use of the iPad as a babysitter and/or a toy to reward completion of work. Middle school children lack the frontal lobe development to understand the difference between when to use the iPad as an educational tool and when it is appropriate to use as a toy. We are trusting the Midway School District to help them learn this while in your care. Many of our middle school population has found themselves at a disadvantage due to COVID and the lack of critical instruction surrounding spelling and handwriting. This same group of students has returned to almost all of their education on the iPad, which contains spell check and avoids handwriting altogether. While technology is prevalent and will be the future, Midway as a district is failing these students, assuming that iPad instruction and unlimited screen time can replace classroom instruction. An example of the iPad as a toy or reward is students being told when they finish their assignment they can play a video game or watch videos on YouTube. The incentive of the iPad has become too great in the classroom, and we, the parents, have no control over the amount of screen time our students are experiencing. Finally, these students need additional supervision or increased security protocols. A recent example is that a group of 7th and 8th grade boys were able to build a proxy website that circumvented the Midway firewalls, allowing unfettered access to the internet, meaning they could search anything they wanted, and it looked as if they were on the Midway ISD site. These boys saw violent and pornographic content, and they viewed it using Midway technology, and it was accessible and used by students for upwards of 2 months during school time. I'm happy to discuss this further with anyone after the meeting if you would like. In addition, the days of one-size-fits-all web and device security measures are no longer sufficient for a district of Midway's size and resources. The call to action. I recommend that the school board begin an assessment of how iPads are used in the classroom instruction and investigate the average usage of the iPad by grade level and see if we're doing more than is developmentally appropriate. In addition, revise the technology plan so that it aligns with best practices that increase student learning and decrease opportunities for harm. I would also encourage you all to meet with the existing staff, administration, teaching staff, and practitioners and parents, as it has been my experience that they too feel hamstrung by the adoption of technology in its current state. Finally, what type of technology instruction or professional development have we given our educators and our teachers on the Midway campuses? Thank you.
Any board member have any questions for Ms. Price?
No, just thank you for that
Yeah,
information.
thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that to our
Good to know.
attention.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for
Yes, thank you,
advocating for the
ma'am.
kids. Appreciate it.
Mr. Guard?
I told Jesse before the meeting that they get extra credit for putting together all this information. It's quite a lot of material.
No kidding. And thank you, Ms. Price. We appreciate that. I would say, if I could comment to her comments.
Please. Yeah.
I mean, on the technical side, for one, we're on the same page, right? It's a constant battle. Fighting those proxy servers is a daily thing we work on. One of the stats I pulled is that every day there's 252,000 new web pages put out on the internet. So what do we do about that? We subscribe to a content filter. That's one of the best ones you can get. It's Lightspeed Systems. They use the same database is shared between 20,000 schools across the world. So we're building this database of safe web pages to counter that influx of web pages. Some of those called proxy sites are meant to circumvent our content filter. And what the kids will do is they find it and they share it amongst all their friends. They fail to share it with me. But we do have a team of folks on staff that are constantly looking for that. As soon as we find a proxy, we shut it down. But it's a constant battle, and I would just leave you with that. We're on the same page. And if there's anything you'd like to speak with after this, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And I'm sure Ms. Collins would love to address the instructional side of some of that too.
So just out of curiosity, are there any discipline measures for students that
so I mean, it's
find those loopholes?
It is a direct violation of our AUP to find ways to circumvent the content filter. You bet. I was talking to Mr. Wood earlier, and students have an advantage we don't have with unlimited motivation and time resources to find these things, and when they do, they share it out. But I would assure you that we're taking some of the best measures you can take, and in addition to filtering with Lightspeed, we're filtering at home as well as at school. And that filtering is done on the device prior to any SSL encryption.
Jesse, is the microphone picking you up? I'm having trouble hearing you.
It could be me. My throat's a little dry.
It looks like Ms. Price has something to add.
I just want to add that for me, I understand that middle schoolers are going to be middle schoolers. I'm not naive to that. Where I have a true issue is that it happened on school grounds during school time. This was not on the bus. This was not at home. This was happening on the campus. So that's where I'm not naive. I have middle school boys. I just want to make that clear. It's not to a point where I don't think these things are going to happen. I have a problem with where and how often it happens.
Great, thank you.
So obviously that, the conversation we had was about the technology side. There's always obviously a human monitoring, whether it's AI, I guess, can assist with that some, but ultimately you really need eyeballs on kids and what they're doing, right? I mean, that's part of the overall layers of security.
Right, the technical piece only goes so far, right? There's a classroom management piece. Obviously, that should be employed as a complete picture there.
Okay.
All right, well, it is still an honor to get to present to Dr. Kay and the board on your last school board meeting. Ms. Collins and I are pleased to present to you the new additions to the technology plan. A little history on the tech plan. It used to be a documentation requirement for receiving federal E-rate funding. That's no longer a requirement, but it's still a guiding document for both the Innovation and Learning Department and the Technology Department. This is also a public-facing document, so it's something that prospective employees and families might look at when they're considering Midway ISD as a destination. So with that in mind, we've embedded some multimedia into the plan. On the printed version, you'll see some QR codes on there. If you scan those, it links to a video intro, as well as a virtual tour of the new Information Technology Center. And on the digital version, that's a clickable link. In developing the new technology plan, we sought input from our respective departments, as well as the District Technology Committee. That committee is comprised of stakeholders from many levels. On it, there are students, staff, parents, community members, and we try to get at least one staff member from each one of our campuses. To help us identify some key objectives and strategies, we leverage collaboration tools like Thought Exchange, Google Docs. This word cloud is from a Thought Exchange where we prompted the technology committee to identify top technology priorities. If you guys are following along in the tech plan, you'll see that we've included a brief narrative that gives the public some insight into our current environment. Under the network, we highlight that we have high-speed fiber from each of our campuses to the ITC, robust wireless infrastructure to support multiple devices per staff and student, which was just coincidentally upgraded over the Christmas break to Wi-Fi 6. On the server side, we leverage a VMware virtual infrastructure. Virtually all of our school functions, from thermostats and doors to email to digital curriculum, rely in some form or fashion on our network infrastructure.
You mentioned thermostats. I know that was an issue we talked about a year ago. Did we get all that resolved?
I think so, buddy.
Sorry, that's maybe off topic, but you just said thermostats, so.
We have the replacements put in everywhere, the administration building and then facility on various campuses.
Okay,
For the most part, yes.
okay. Thanks.
On the technology support services part of current environment, I put on there that we have a district technician responsible for 2 campuses on a rotating schedule, and that we always have a tech assigned to the district helpline to assist during business hours. And then just recently, when remote working became a reality, we added an outside line to help workers who may be working from home or from conferences. The plan is organized into 4 high-level goals. Those are access, environment, classroom, and skills. And each goal includes objectives and strategies that support that goal. The first goal area, we've called it access, includes the hardware and software infrastructure that must be in place to allow for the effective use of technology in our schools. This domain also includes the cybersecurity safeguards needed to protect all of our staff and student data and to create a safe learning environment. For each of the high-level goals, we've broken it down into objectives and strategies that support those objectives. Obviously, that's hard to read, so for time's sake, I'll just go over one of these to show you our organizational strategy for those. So under Objective 1.1, which was to enhance safety and security, we have a strategy 1.1.3. And that strategy was to leverage a third-party security firm to conduct network security audits on our network. This is something we've been doing for a number of years. It's proven very effective to help us find vulnerabilities and remediate those before the bad guys do. And then you can see all 3 years have an X ticked on there. That means we plan to employ this strategy for each of the 3 years in the plan. Moving on to the next goal that we've called the environment goal. This includes our tech support objectives, as well as policies and procedures to help support a successful learning environment. Again, I'll pull one of the strategies, make it large enough to actually read. I chose strategy 2.2.7, that is to leverage district policy and evaluate all applications and software solutions for data privacy practices. This is where we'd have them sign our digital privacy agreement and hold that vendor to a higher standard when it involves our staff and student data. And again, you can see by the X's, that's something we plan to employ every year. Up next, I'll turn it over to Sarah Collins. She's going to cover the instructional environment and goals.
All right, well, thank you. I'm really excited to share with you guys where we are with the instructional piece, and the 2 parts I want to highlight in our current environment. One is one-to-one iPads. It was 10 years ago the bond was passed, believe it or not. It's been a while ago. The bond passed, we went into one-to-one iPads, and I believe it was really a reflection of our innovative nature here at Midway ISD and our desire to give students just unlimited opportunities when it came to learning. Also, along with the iPads, we have the Innovation and Learning Specialists, and this is a really unique department of just a high-functioning department of individuals who are on every campus who have a really wide range of roles within the district when it comes to the one-to-one initiative. Some of these roles include every year they create hundreds of hours of face-to-face and online training for teachers. They also provide resources for parents, students, and teachers for technology integration. They are trained instructional coaches, so they work one-on-one with teachers. They provide immediate instructional support for teachers on their campus. Any teacher who comes to Midway ISD has somebody to help them on their campus if they have any type of software need or request. This group also, if you think about it, every year, twice a year, they collect and deploy over 9,000 iPads in 10 different locations. So they definitely are serving our district in a variety of ways throughout. So that's a little bit about our current environment. One of the 2 goals I'm going to highlight today, one is our classroom goal, and it's about providing transformative learning experiences for students while we seamlessly integrate iPads with best practice learning strategies. What I did on this particular objective is I pulled out just some key terms I think are really relevant to what we're doing and having future-ready students. And the classroom is really about how are we preparing our teachers? What is their capacity? What is their confidence in walking in and teaching with technology? And so for this particular strategy, we're talking about providing support, coaching, and professional learning opportunities that equip teachers to expand teamwork, have personalized learning experiences for students, have activities characterized by critical thinking, communication, and creativity. What I like about this and why I highlight these particular pieces, not only the skills we want students to leave with, but we have what's called the Apple Learning Survey. We gave it in 2021, and we just gave it in January. And it allows us to measure these specific things and how confident teachers feel preparing lessons that present these items. But also the survey allows us to drill down by campus and give really targeted trainings to our educators to make sure they feel equipped to walk into a one-to-one environment and teach our kids. The next high-level goal I'm going to talk about is the skills goal. And while the classroom really talks about what our teachers are doing and preparing for our kids, the skills are what are our students walking away with? What is their ability to develop podcasts, videos? Can they make an infographic? What type of digital media experiences do they have before they leave? And while the first section of this goal, if you look in the technology plan, it really talks about the K through 12 technology TEKs and strategies and all those pieces. But what I highlighted today, which I think is really important, is the digital citizenship piece. And if you look in there, we have quite a few objectives or strategies lined out under digital citizenship. This is something we attack on the first day. When iPads are rolled out to students, they all go through training as far as responsible use. We have videos, they sign an agreement, and then it's carried on throughout the school year in their various courses in the K through 12 situation. Each class kind of is going to look at it a little bit differently. This particular strategy is one we want to really push forward starting 23 and moving forward. Is making sure that we're also not only having classes that equip students, but we're equipping teachers. The teachers can go into the classroom and feel equipped to teach digital citizenship in conjunction with their curriculum and their instruction. All right, with that, I want to thank you guys for your support of the one-to-one, your support of the instructional technology, and I look forward to the next 10 years. Let's see what we do next. The technology committee was made up of district employees, our district staff, and then of course we had community members, parents, students, and staff members from the campuses. Jesse, if you'd like to join me, we'll take any questions at this time from the board.
So, go ahead. Okay. Well, no, just going kind of off what Ms. Price was saying, and I understand we have over 8,000 students, and it's hard to monitor every single child sometimes, and some kids are really bright and they figure out ways to circumvent the system and get into things because they have free time or whatever they're doing. But is there a way with our system that if a student does get out of the secure sites, if they figure out to break the proxy or whatever you call the term, I'm not technological, but to get out of it and go into it, can we not make it where their iPad shuts down? Is there not any way we can have some more control that's, you know, the teacher's teaching, so they're not, can't watch every student every time they're on their iPad? Is there any way that the technology can help us monitor this? Can we look into this?
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're asking me if it's something I don't know about, how do I know about it? And the answer to that would be, we really just have to rely on teachers in the classroom, and that we rely on our database and Lightspeed, you know, that it's going to categorize
So there's no
things
technology, though, that can tell the iPad itself, you've breached your wall, shut it down? Is there not something?
I mean, it would have no way of knowing if a site you're going to is good or bad without referring back to its database, right? So where we categorize things as good or bad. So, I mean, to answer your question straightly, if you found a site and I didn't know about it and it was miscategorized, no, I would not know about it until someone saw you or they told someone.
Okay.
So that's where we rely on that database. It's updated in real time. They've got a team of professionals who go through and categorize sites as they come online. There's an AI component. Fortunately, there's no other way you'd get through all the sites if there weren't. One cool thing it does is if you were to go home and create your own proxy site and try to give it to your friends, that wouldn't work because it by default categorizes everything that's unknown as blocked. And maybe I'm giving away too many secrets about our content filter, but if you found a site that was miscategorized, yeah, that would be an issue, you bet.
Okay, so that's not unknown, it's miscategorized, so it doesn't block it, is what you're saying?
Right. So it could be the case that the AI that's automatically categorizing sites as the first layer of defense could miscategorize a site. Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my other question is, I guess, a little bit more on the training or the what we expect from our students. But I was looking on it's page 411 in our packet, but it's the graph of the elements of student learning by frequency. And I was just noticing that to me, maybe we're not doing enough in the area of real-world engagement and communication and creation. Is that creation? Yeah, and creation. Of product. So is this some area we need to work on? We need to improve this? Is this a training for the teachers? How can we get the kids? Because I would think with the coding and the critical thinking, all these things they're learning, why aren't we figuring out more ways they can put this to real world
Exactly.
use?
That's the great thing with the Apple survey too, is now we have this data and we can drill in and find these areas. And you're right, it's a matter of more training, more explanation, showing them innovative ways where students can use iPads. You're correct, that's exactly where it lands. And we're gonna continue to push on that. It gives us, again, a laser-like focus on where we need to move. We'll see more coding, like your Susan Jones and your specialized courses. There's no reason it can't be everywhere on some level.
Right. And I mean, I know every day it's a new day and we're learning, but it just, if we've reached this level with our use of iPads, maybe we need to push up to the next level with the way they're using the iPads in a different way.
Absolutely, I agree. But I will say, I was walking through the middle school the other day, and I'm just walking down the hall, and I hear the sound. It's a drone. There's two boys in the hallway coding a drone, talking to each other, figuring it out, and flying it again. So I know it's happening. We just need to make it happen in more places.
Yeah. I
Well,
think that's
great
a training.
If I'm hearing Ms. Price correctly, that the issue that we're having of this overuse or misuse comes from unsupervised, non-instructional time that they have access to. Is that fair to say? What can we do about that? What are we doing about that?
I mean, I don't want to misquote Ms. Price, but I think your 2 points were, one, the kids found a vulnerability in the system and exploited it for probably far too long. And then 2, too much free time where they're doing games instead of instructional. Is that?
Yeah, it sounds to me like, I mean, that's our staff who's choosing to use it as a reward instead of as a learning platform. They're using it as a reward platform, which I'm guilty of as a parent. I'll just go ahead and admit that right now. So, yeah, the question is, how do we police that as a district with our team members and make sure it's not it's a learning platform and not a reward platform, you know?
Is there a way that we
That's
could
not
use
bad.
like the Stop It app to report technological misuse or something like that? Like, you know, if, I mean,
Dr.
not, I
Najima,
don't
do
wanna
you see
call
much
it
of
like tattletelling, but you know, like if somebody finds a proxy server that's inappropriate, but maybe
could
they
use
don't
it.
want to be the one, you know, to be, you know, hey, whatever. Is that an option? Is that what, can we, yeah.
I have, from time to time, found it very useful to have a student on the inside. Any students want to apply, I'm accepting applications.
Don't give that
for-
away, don't give that away.
Ms. Price, did you have another comment?
I did. I just wanted to clarify on the instructional time. Yes, it is often used as a reward, but just as an example, my son was in class today from 8:30 to 2:30 because he had a doctor's appointment. During that time, he had band, lunch, and tennis, and he was still on his iPad for 4 hours and 3 minutes. That means he was on his iPad from the moment he walked in the school until the moment he left. So I know, and I pull that data by looking at his general usage. I would urge the school district to pull the statistics as a whole and see how often are your students on the iPad, because it is no longer a tool that is used in addition to instruction. It is the instruction.
Thank you.
Hey, so I wonder, and part of this is a selfish question because I have a 5th grader, and also have a high schooler, so I kind of see the two ends of this. I kind of wonder if there's some inflection points, right, in the one-to-one initiative, and a big one to me is probably middle school, right? Because we go from, hey, your device stays in the classroom and we control when you use it, to here's your iPad, now go get on Schoology and do your business, right? And so I'm just wondering, it seems like that 6th grade and maybe even 7th grade year is a really formative time to back that up, that, you know, digital citizenship kind of kicks into a higher level, right? And part of that's about bullying and things that tend to happen more maybe in middle school or not, but part of it probably is about appropriate device use too. So I don't have a middle school kid. I know Mr. Green does, so he may have better views on this than I do, but is that a renewed emphasis of something that we should look at specifically at the middle school level?
Yeah, And I'll defer to Ms. Collins on that, but that is something we've brought up several times. There are digital citizenship requirements across all grade levels, but as a renewed emphasis, that's something that's in the tech plan.
And it's also coming through their Panther Pathways course. I know there's a leadership course that they haven't completed, and it's on digital citizenship. But I think also being really clear with our teachers when they come in, like, we have guidelines, and free iPad usage is not an activity.
Well-
And make sure that goes through administration and trickles down to teachers as well.
So my second question actually is about that, because I think we probably do a pretty good job with our regular classroom teachers on this. I'm wondering about two things. One is about subs that come in. How much time do we really have to sort of control them? And I know if I was subbing for a class, I might get frustrated and say, everybody go watch whatever. I wouldn't personally, but I could see that happening, I'll just say. But the second question too is, and I see Ms. Cochran's in the back of the room, to what degree are the iPads helping us with special ed? Are they hurting us? Are there some specific things that we need to do for the special ed population? Because I didn't hear a lot about that in the technology plan. So I don't know if it's a question for you or a question for Ms. Cochran or kind of both.
So we do utilize iPads and technology within special education. We have some students who that's their only mode of communication is access to communication devices. So yes, we use a lot of technology within special education. And sometimes we take the iPad, but we go bigger, depending if there's a visual impairment, or we have to go bigger with keyboards and keypads if there's physical impairments. So we're constantly utilizing technology on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
Okay, this is a very basic question. So I'm at school with my iPad and my iPad's on. I know, okay. So does it show like the mom when they get home, does it show you've used your iPad all those hours just because your iPad was on? I mean, this is a really stupid question. Or does it show a difference if you actually get on and do something on the iPad? So could the iPad just be on in the locker room, in the tennis locker room? Or I'm just asking, I don't know, or does that show that it's been used, or is that a different thing?
No, I'm assuming it'll show you which application you were in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for that.
So
amount
being
of time.
on doesn't show usage, that's what I guess I'm just asking. Oh, sure.
Or after the meeting too.
Okay, yeah, just real quick, okay. So it shows the highlights when it goes up and down, I see that, okay. So you can actually see. Oh, you just, okay.
Well, and I think a related question, I know there's times when a class is using iPads for a project that the teacher has the ability to go in and see what are each of these kids in this classroom actually doing right now.
Yeah,
and it's not just test times, right? Isn't that sort of a all the time kind of thing?
That is the case. At any point, you could use, and we encourage use of Apple Classroom to see what they're doing on their iPad.
We have two tools. We have Apple Classroom, you can see what's going on in every iPad in your classroom. We also have Mozel Manager, which allows you to lock your students when they walk in the door. You can lock them into a particular app or website, or lock them out of other options as well.
Yeah, and I know that's kind of that inflection point too. Getting into middle and high school, it's harder to do because they're using so many tools for legitimate purposes that maybe my fifth grader would not.
But you can still see them. I mean, the
Yeah.
teacher still can zoom in, look at their screen in real time and watch what's
Okay.
happening.
Anybody else?
I appreciate all your work on this.
Yes,
and
thank you.
the technical stuff especially, but yeah.
George,
and-
you have a comment?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the report, particularly the timeline, starting, 2012, 2013, and all the different generations of iPads. And what it says is that you never lose the human element. We never meant for technology, to replace. We have mistakes. We make mistakes. We have had beginning of this training and this, what Ms. Collins was talking about, the different utilization, those have fluctuated because we've done this survey many times. But we also have new people, new staff, and looking at Ms. Minshew, she has a lot of new teachers that she's mentoring. It is not to blame teachers, but it is an enormous task with the turnover and the teachers that we have and getting them up to speed with all of the tools that Ms. Collins mentioned. And so I just say that they work. It's not, yes, of the technology, it's critical that we have, y'all all know that, with technology for our kids. But it just means is that their jobs are always ongoing. They work hard at it all of the time, not only from the cybersecurity and the safety, internet safety, on that end, but also in the training and working with teachers and staff about how to integrate it. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yes, readily admit we make mistakes and there are holes in systems and or maybe in misapplications of the use of technology, and appreciate really the feedback and the information. We have to be in partnership, particularly I think as mentioned either Rick or Colin about middle school when it does move beyond going home and maturity levels and all that. We have to have that partnership with parents and families so we know that too, because as Mr. Garn mentioned, you know all of these and then all of a sudden something pops through that could miss our systems. But we do, I mean, as I said, we're not going to be foolproof. We're not. And I never want to come out here and want a presentation like that to be Pollyanna that we're foolproof. It never will be foolproof. And it will always be also on the comfort level of staff as well. And we know we have work to do in that. They're great people, but we have more work to do in that area as they mature and being a younger staff as well, and want to continue to work with them with that too. So again, I applaud all of the efforts and the commitment of the district and appreciate the feedback about where we have some holes and where we need to correct. But I just know the staff, and this is an excellent plan of all, if you look at all these different initiatives, that is constant ongoing work. So it's not taken lightly, that's all I want to say. This is very, very serious. No one intentionally, I think, has this outlook not to pay attention, but some things do slip. And so I just wanted to say appreciate the work, but also this plan and the detail that you have provided, not only to the board, but publicly of strategies and things we're trying to work on with it. It is a huge undertaking.
It's our pleasure. I appreciate the support from you guys. And you mentioned tools. This is just a tool in the toolbox. I mean, the real treasures are highly trained teachers and how they use this and how effective they use it in the classroom.
Well, thank you for brainstorming with us here. We're not being critical. I think you do an outstanding job. I'm very proud of our technology we offer our staff and students. It's kept us at the forefront of innovation, and y'all work very hard. As we know, we're not perfect, and we all work together to try to make ourselves better all the time, but I really appreciate all you do and hope you didn't think I was being
No, thank you. We have an amazing team, but if anyone was to try to sell you a content filter that was 100% effective, run, they're lying. Yeah, it's best effort.
Well, I've said this a couple of times tonight. This represents a phenomenal amount of work, and I have to say I was really impressed that our tech guy was such a gifted writer with a gifted writing team. That's
AI helps a lot.
Not two skill sets that often coexist.
AI wrote this?
Very, very thoughtful and informative.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate
I
it.
have one last question, and it kind of goes back to what Ms. Price was saying with her visual aid that she showed us. Is there an ability, because I know she, I've got, like Colin said, I'm a middle schooler. There's obviously reports that you can get to see the activity and what the iPad was doing throughout the day. Is there a report or a threshold or something that will alert the district if, for example, my son spent 2 hours on YouTube during school time for one reason or another? Is there a report that says, hey, this is a disproportionate use of the iPad for not Schoology or some educational type material? Is there a way to kind of flag that? That way you can say, hey, these 37 seventh graders were disproportionately using their iPad for something not related to school, and then that way maybe we could kind of nip this in the bud before it drags on for 2 months?
So the difficulty in that question would be setting some kind of framework up ahead of time of what they're supposed to be doing and which resources they are on, so then I could say when they are not on those, right? So like to be able to flag me when they spend too much time on YouTube, well, I don't know that they didn't have several hours of YouTube lessons assigned to them, so I'd have to know ahead of time. Yes, I can track what they're on and how long, but I'd have to know ahead of time what those metrics would be to deserve a flag.
Sounds like a community committee roundtable, something where we can get a lot of minds around the table talking about what are our resources, what are our goals, how do we problem solve, what's realistic. And we've solved things like that before, so let's keep talking about it and see what we can do.
The other thing I would say is I think George's comment is important. I think at the partnership piece of it, the school district, whether it's the tech department, classroom teachers, that sort of thing, they can do what they can do. But what's also really important is parents, and I would agree with Colin and I agree with you, Jonathan. We had 3 middle school boys back in the day. I've not forgotten what middle school boys are like. And I think particularly, maybe one of the things we do is we encourage parents to do what Ms. Price did. And while I appreciate and welcome her comments and input to the board, truly, I think most importantly, folks shouldn't have to come to the board to talk to us about this. The parents should be looking at it and in an appropriate manner communicating with those campus administrators about concerns that they've got when they look at what their students are doing on their iPads. I think that's a pretty simple way to encourage that and build that partnership, because school folks can't do it all. We need that partnership. So that's my comments.
Mine are middle school girls, sugar and spice and all things nice.
I had 3 boys. I had 2 of those, Colin, and it was exactly like that. And then I had 3
Just
boys.
saying. And I do thank Ms. Price for coming and engaging in the
Yeah.
conversation with
Appreciate
us.
it.
Indeed.
So,
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. 2022 summary report on our TAP R paper.
Really crazy.
I don't think this is working, so I don't know why it's standing by.
I don't think it is either.
No, it's not been working today.
So we're going to go over the paper report, but I do want to mention that in March, we're compiling the district annual report, which is really going to comprise 7 different pieces. This paper report is just going to be one of those pieces. So that'll be for the community in March, and at the March board meeting, we'll have a public hearing, and hopefully that was clear in the write-ups. If you have any questions about that, let me know. We wanted to keep this on this January agenda because we've had it on the January agenda for many years, so hopefully this will be familiar to you. It's kind of usually all good news, so we'll just get right into it. Now, we always compare ourselves to other districts across the state that are very much like Midway, and so we have, we're one of 12, and these are those districts. They are all A and B rated districts with a population of about, I think we go about slightly over 12,000 to roughly 5,000. So we're right pretty much in the middle there, especially now with our growth. We're really at 8,700, a little above that. So we're right in the middle of the pack. And our socioeconomic percentage is, at least was last year, this is where the data comes from, was at 32.6, a little bit on the lower side. But the one I'm really excited about, and we really didn't get to show this last year because we didn't have any accountability specific ratings last year. But this year, we have that 96, which puts us above everybody else. We are number 1 when you look at school districts that are most similar to us here, to Midway. So we're kind of excited about that, and the hard part is going to be staying on top, of course. I don't know if you remember, I kind of made a joke last year about it was Montgomery and I think it was Canyon. We're coming after you, Montgomery and Canyon, and well, you'll see as we go through this. We're not going grade level by grade level. We did that in July, you might remember. It was a long presentation, so we're just going to kind of hit the highlights. So in overall reading, we are at number 1 above all of our groups. Yeah, very good. And with meets, masters, as well as approaches. In math, we did just a little bit, and really it's that approaches score that let those 2 districts kind of slide ahead of us. But we are still doing really well, and we have the highest masters number there. But again, we are at the top, and it's really easy to switch places when you're so close with some of these percentages. So we're doing well in math. We're going to get to that number one spot, I'm pretty sure, again. Science, we did slip a little bit in science. We were at number one last year. Kind of came down just a little bit. We've got some plans in place to get us back in there. Social studies, we're doing well. Last year we were at second place. Our scores went up just a little bit. We're still at second place. Well, say that again when government are coming after you. And our attendance rate, again, this is last year, our 2020 to 2021 attendance rate. So that would put us during the time period where we still had, COVID around, still had kids being absent. So we dipped just a little bit there, but we're still doing well, and I anticipate that number going up.
Pre-COVID, what was our historic attendance rate?
Up 98, 99.
Okay.
It's kind of our usual.
No, a little lower attendance.
Oh, sorry.
Attendance, not like 97 was some of our better years, 0.2,
Attendance rate.
97s.
Our attendance rate,
Yeah.
we're usually up, 97.
So the district, again, Montgomery, that's amazing.
Man, that's crazy.
99,
Yeah.
But 96, I was just saying, didn't mean to interrupt, but we're real happy with that during the COVID years, that still maintain that. And all of these districts, higher performing districts overall, you can see had pretty good rates. Some dip though, you can see at the end of that, below 94, 92. So really kudos to stay as high. I think this is what you're talking about. The next one is always in the 99s there.
Okay, yes, but I have one
Graduation.
question, because we had the other report where we do our monthly attendance rates, and I think we're at 94% last month. It was not as good, I think. It was low, it was pretty low. I know it's still some post-COVID, but do we have any ideas of ways to get more kids to come to school? Because we usually at least have a 96%, and I noticed it was down, and we used to be 97, 98. We used to be pretty high, so any new ideas how to get kids to get to school?
And December is usually a month that we kind of dip a little bit.
Okay.
And so month to month, it really is kind of moving up and down.
And it was just more than even the year before. I mean, it was just, last month was a little odd, but it made me think, we're just not as high as we used to always be pre-COVID. And it's post-COVID, but are there any creative ways or new ideas to get, why are the kids coming to school? How can we get, any new ideas how to get kids
So pre-COVID, we used to do a lot of incentives to get kids to come to school. And really during COVID time, we did away with that. We haven't really talked about as a principal group if it's time to bring those back. I'm kind of nervous about bringing some of those pre-COVID.
Incentives like tying it to exam exemptions.
3 days a semester to get exemption.
Yeah, things like that.
Public health won't want us to do that.
Right.
Some mental
Ever
health,
again.
mental health issues?
Yeah.
Sometimes they were,
Come to school sick, that kind of
Yeah.
thing? Okay.
So yeah, looking back at the finance report, 21-22, our year number was 94.8, and year-to-date, 22-23 is 95.5. So those are down a little bit from that as well.
Anyway, I just didn't know. Was wondering about it, since we get the ADA money, so.
I'm guessing the 96.1 included our virtual students, because we had Virtual Academy that year, 2020, 21,
yes,
22.
So we would have had virtual numbers in there.
Okay,
And we had a lot of flexibility with attendance that year as well.
right.
Okay.
Graduation rate, that I was jumping in. Okay, our graduation rate's looking very good, 99.4. It's usually up above 99. And so we're still doing very well there. CCMR, we were at first place last year. We dipped a little bit. The only reason for this is a Peen's coding error. And we talked about that back in, I believe it was July. That has already been corrected, so we anticipate going right back up to the high 90s or mid 90s, hopefully for next year. And then just as a reminder, you can get CCMR credits for students for a variety of reasons or different ways. And we really do very well at number one, our students passing or meeting criteria for TSI in reading and math. And that next slide shows that in our Student Success Initiative. We are number one. We're doing very well, especially on the reading side, and higher than all of our comparable districts, even in math as well. Congratulations. And also, we are number 1. Last year, Canyon was ahead of us slightly with average ACT scores. We jumped up ahead of them. In ACT, these numbers are so close. In that first place, McRomples is at 23.6.
Oh, wow.
So when you're so close, it's very easy to switch places. So we're still doing very well. And again, different cohort of kids get different results. And then finally, just some things that we are going to continue to do to continue getting these great results, hopefully even better, is continued focus on our House Bill 4545 tutoring hours that we do for any student who hasn't passed a state test. We've got that going on right now. It's going well. We've got our directors going visiting with all the principals, kind of seeing how the plans are going. And we're kind of where we're supposed to be, about halfway with most students. And so we're also, like I mentioned, correcting that Teams coding error for our college prep math and English. So our CCMR scores are going to go back up to where we're used to having them in the 90s. And then also we have a district-wide focus identifying our subtops. So again, looking at, this is some of the work we're doing with Midway United, looking at our subpopulations, actually student groups. Change the term now, our student groups, to make sure that particularly our Hispanic population and our Black population are making gains and we're closing those achievement gaps. And we are in some areas and still, having some struggles, as you can imagine, in different areas. It gets very complicated. And then finally, one of the things that we're doing this year is we're participating in what's called the Texas Through the Year assessment. It's a pilot for 5th grade science. I mentioned that science, it's just kind of dipped down a little bit again. We're still doing very well, but we want to be at the very top. And so what we're doing is giving the students a beginning, a middle, and end of the year shorter type of STAR test. And this is through the state. And then we really feel that we're going to get a lot of good information for our kids to utilize in a formative kind of way throughout the year. And hopefully the state will maybe one day consider kind of changing the STAR test to something that is more of a beginning, middle, and end of the year test. Kind of the hope with these pilots. That's all I have for you today. We'll bring back more information at that March meeting and kind of give the full annual report and kind of do some highlights in it.
Questions for Aaron? Comments, discussion?
My comment is, it seems like we're kind of the all-stars of this group, and when do we start to look at the group that's still ahead of us, and like, what do they do that we don't, right? Because we got to start playing at, a higher level too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yeah.
Do we know who those schools are, and have we consider what that looks like?
We can take a look at just A-rated school, A-rated districts, no matter their economic disadvantage numbers, and start seeing how do we fare.
Yeah, we just don't, again, parting comments again, it's not apples to apples if you look at some that are very, very low SES, they have 5%, 10%, free and reduced, things like that. That was the purpose that we started this. For no other reason, we're not required to do this. All we're required to do is just show you the rating, show you the score, show you each of those percentages. We had done this several years ago, just as to be more informative with the data. Within this group kind of fluctuates, as Dr. Pena said, but is very, very similar demographics to the district.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of why we benchmark it that way.
Oh, I love the comparisons. I'm just thinking of can we specifically look at schools that are ahead of us and see what is it about them that's different than us that we could affect? Maybe some things we can't, maybe some things we can. It's always good to look at who's ahead of you.
And just to mention, that group is probably going to change because some of the districts in that group are growing a little faster than us, getting a little large, and so probably just kind of analyze the state again and get those 12 districts that are most likely.
Does Montgomery know we're coming for him? Have you
They're scared.
given him a call?
They're trying to outgrow us so we don't compare ourselves
Yeah.
anymore.
We're going to drop down to 4A.
Exactly.
Those guys, I always hated those guys.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Consideration items. We have the consent agenda. We have minutes from our December regular meeting, our 2 special called meetings, our new MHS courses that we looked at earlier, talked about, calling the trustee election for May 6th, and then maybe the largest number of early graduation requests I think I've ever seen, a bunch. Does any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Tullis,
Second.
second by Ms. Vick. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. On personnel, I see we've got 3 professional recommendations to act on. Right? Well, I see show 3 new hires under professional on the addendum. That's what I was looking at.
At the top, not the updates, those are updates. At the top, there's a professional recommendation.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
oh,
We have 2 professional recommendations, the ones under updates have different contracts.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I understand now. I understand now.
Gotta look at the right spot on the page.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not at the right spot on the page either. So do we have a motion to approve the 2 professional recommendations?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Watts,
Second.
second by Mr. Alford. Okay, thank you. I didn't hear. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion also carries unanimously. Any other personnel matters? Don't need to go into closed session. Not for you. We are going to go into closed session briefly on our superintendent search matters. We'll take a 5-minute recess and then go in there and, or do y'all want us 5-minute recess, or y'all just want to go in there?
Let's just go.
Okay, we'll just go. So at 9:26, we go into closed session under 551.074. Thank all y'all for being here tonight.
Wrap it
I've got
up.
a lot to talk about.
Come on.
No, I do have one special request. When Mr. Russick finishes the meeting, can I hit the gavel though? At the very end of the meeting. I always wanted to do that. Are we done?
Well, but you gotta say the right words.
No, that's what I'm saying. You said the words. All I want to do is hit the gavel. I
Well,
want
hold on. You can run for school board now.
That's right.
Come on. I'll give you my seat.
Yeah.
City council.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Lots of pictures tonight? Okay, good.
So, we're out of agenda items and we are adjourned.
Hey!